And one of the things that I consider to be really essential in these teachings is practice. You know, I was talking earlier about the fact that Richie Davidson wrote a book called Altered Traits about the scientific study of the brain of people who were highly experienced meditators, right? And this research showed very clearly that the brain changes profoundly. It changes in terms of its function and its structure for people who practice meditation over time, okay? And when he went to give a presentation about this in a meeting in Wisconsin where his graduate school is, he invited the Dalai Lama to come to the presentation. And so the Dalai Lama came, and one of the things he said in this presentation that was really the point that he was attempting to make, based on the research, was that well-being is a practice. This is really, if you understand the implications of that statement, it can change your life. Well-being is a practice. And that's not even profound. I mean, all you have to do is look at what people are practicing to be healthy. They're practicing diet, they're practicing exercise, right? To be healthy, right? Well, the well-being of the quality of your life, the well-being of your experience of being alive, the well-being of your experience of being a human being is just as dependent on practice as your physical body is, you know, as your physical body is dependent on exercise and diet and the rest of it. So, what does this mean? Well, you know, one of the things that people think is, well, you know, once I understand the concept, you know, once I read enough books, once I listened to enough teachings, watched enough videos, right, that I know what this is, I understand what this is. And then people say, as I have seen many people say in interacting with teachers, you know, how come I don't experience being the awareness? How come I don't experience peace, happiness, you know, consistent contentment, clarity, you know, a sense of well-being physically and emotionally. How come I don't experience that? I understand the concepts. You know, I go to the retreats. You know, I listen to the teachers and everything. Well, the reason that that's the case is because understanding, as one of my teachers used to say, understanding is a booby prize. Understanding in and of itself is not enough to change the conditioning that has occurred in your brain over the years that you've been alive that has determined your identity. That conditioning has determined your identity. And of course, that conditioning was unquestioned as it was occurring, right? How could you question it? You were a kid. You didn't know any. You know, you were like me. You came into this world and you figured these people must know what they're doing. Right? These people must know what they're doing. I mean, they're adults. And we're not the first people that ever existed here. There's a long history of humanity, right? By now, they must know everything, right? Well, what a rude awakening that is, right? No, it's not. Not only is it the case that human beings don't know everything, and not only is it not the case that human beings don't know what they're doing, right? But they're clueless. They're clueless. Look at their behavior. How could somebody know what's going on and know what they were doing and behave the way they do around other people? How could somebody know what they're doing and not understand that to take care of this body is absolutely necessary in order to experience a good life, right? A long life, right? To take care of this physical vehicle is absolutely necessary, right? Well, look at what the evidence says. Walk out in public and look at the number of people who are obese, who are obviously not paying much attention to taking care of the body, not paying attention to exercise or diet, right? So what's the evidence say? The evidence says human beings are crazy. That's what the evidence says. Look at the news. Human beings are crazy, right? They keep trying, you know, they keep changing and trying to change things, right? Trying to improve, self-improvement, right, like that. The problem is that the source of all of the ignorance and the source of all of the bad habits, like thinking and ignoring the body and, you know, not enough of what you need to be healthy, the source of all of it is a fundamental misunderstanding about your identity. It's a fundamental misunderstanding about who you are. And once you're in the world of the mistake, once you're in the world of the lie, once you're in the world of thinking you are a physical body and you are a personality, then what comes after that and comes along with it, your life is a thought process. Once you are dependent on thinking to know what's going on, once you're dependent on thinking to know who you are, and you are dependent on thinking to know who you are, because if you had a good shot to the head, right, and had some brain damage and lost your memory, right, you couldn't remember who you are, which means the only way you know who you are now is you remember it. Well, if you have to remember who you are, how real is that? How actual is that, right? Now, one thing you don't have to remember is your awareness, right? Awareness doesn't have to be remembered because it is already naturally here all the time. It's already naturally here all the time. And that awareness that's naturally here all the time, according to the teachings, is you, is your true nature. And it's that awareness that has peace. It's that awareness that's content. It's that awareness that is happy. It's that awareness that has clarity. So then you can say, well, how come I don't experience those things? Because you're being something other than that. You're preoccupied with continuing to identify yourself as a personality in a physical body, living your life as a story, right? Living your life as a story, right? Interacting with the world from your conditioning, right? Which means that you believe that you are separate from the rest of humanity, right? You believe in duality. You think duality is the truth. Well, all you have to do is study the teaching sufficiently, and you will see that the evidence is very clear that duality is not the truth. Non-duality is the truth. Non-duality is the truth. It's just, if you study the teachings and you spend the time to deepen your understanding, it will eventually end you up in a place where you will see that there is no separation between you and the rest of humanity. There's no separation between you and life. There's no separation between you and the world, no more than there is between an ice cube and a glass of water. Right? The ice cube and the glass of water may be in a different form, but they're the same thing. They're the same thing. This is what we mean by non-duality, right? That the appearance may appear to be different, right? But in essence, it's the same thing. It's all consciousness. In essence, it's the same thing. The appearance may be different, but in essence, it's the same thing. It's just like jewelry, right? You can have earrings that are gold. You can have a ring that's gold. You can have a necklace that's gold, right? Different forms, right? All the same thing, gold, right? That gold can be melted down and made into any form, right? It's the same thing with consciousness. Consciousness is taking form. Right? Its nature is to take form, right? Its nature is to take form. So, to understand all these things can open up new possibilities, right? Can open up things that you never considered before, that can help you to see things that can allow you to understand why things aren't working when they're not working, why you're suffering when you're suffering, you know, why your body is in the shape it's in, you know, why you're in the emotional shape you're in, why you are so limited in terms of your ability to be in relationship with other people. So, but these concepts that you can learn and understand make a difference because they motivate you and inspire you to want to realize what they're pointing to, right? They motivate you and inspire you to want to realize what they're pointing to, right? But that realization can only occur through practice. That's how you got where you are, isn't it? Weren't you practicing being who you are? Weren't you practicing remembering your name when you were a kid? Weren't you practicing starting to understand, oh, I am this personality. I have these particular qualities. I'm this smart. I'm this pretty. You know, I'm this kind of a person. You know, if you listen to people talk, they say, oh, I'm that kind of a person, or I'm not like that, or this is the way I am, right? This is the identity that they're talking about. And they talk about it like it's real. They talk about it like it's what they actually are. So through these understandings and teachings, you can begin to develop a new possibility, a new realm of understanding, a new realm of possibility, right? But if you want what it has to offer, you've got to start to practice. As Richie Davidson said, practice. You know, well-being is a practice. You've got to start practicing being who you are. This is what I was talking about in the last class. You know, save yourself a lot of trouble. Don't identify yourself as a physical body and a personality that's trying to become the awareness. That will never work, right? Because you're trying to come what is true and what's happening in a dream, right? You're trying to make that become reality. Well, a dream can't become reality. It's a dream, right? Who you think you are can't be who you are because it doesn't actually exist. It's all a thought process, okay? So through practice, what's practice mean? Well, you practice meditation. You sit still. You sit still. You start to move your attention away from the thinking activity. And when you do that, to the awareness of the body breathing, you're moving your attention from the form of being a person to the formlessness of being the awareness. To the formlessness of being the awareness. And if you understand how to apply the teachings as you do the practice of meditation, you understand that when you're sitting still and being silent, you're imitating awareness. Awareness never moves. Awareness has no sound. It has no form, right? At least in the beginning stages of your understanding of it. You know, as you continue to develop your understanding and as you continue to do the practices, you start to become more enlightened. You start to become, reality begins to reveal itself to you, right? You start to see the possibilities. You start to recognize what's actually the case, and you begin to understand that through the practice, you can gradually undo what got done to you, right? You can gradually begin to practice not being the personality, right? By practicing, and this is what the Dalai Lama preaches, practice, cultivate the qualities of awareness. You know, as a person, cultivate the quality, act like you are the awareness, right? Act like you do understand that you and all other human beings are all the same consciousness. Start to practice that in your relationships with people. Start to practice that in relationship to yourself and your body, right? And through the practice, you're interrupting the patterns that are playing. Because what Richard Davidson was pointing out is that the brain is a learning organism. The brain is a learning organism. The brain is learning all the time, 24/7. It's on, it's learning. How is it learning, right? It's taking the way you're experiencing everything and considering that to be the data, right? It's taking the way you're experiencing everything, what you believe, what you're, the way things are being interpreted by you. It's taking that in and using that data and considering that data to be reality. It's like a computer. If you put garbage in, garbage out, right? Now the thing with computers is that it wasn't long after computers got sophisticated enough that we began to understand you have to keep updating the software, right? I mean, if you were as old as I am and you remember when personal computers first came out, right? Compare that to the way they are now, right? And now you get updates every week for your computers and your software. Well, what happened to the software in your brain? That was never updated. You're still using software that's 40 or 50 years old, depending on how old you are, right? And that's why it's a bad fit. That's why you're dysfunctional a lot, right? Because what you learned when you were a child was the way a child understood reality. That's why most human beings are still children. Because they're running the child programming and they don't know it, right? And you can hide that you're running the child program by looking like an adult, right? I have a driver's license. What do you mean? Right? What do you mean I'm not an adult? I'm considered an adult. I can vote. I am considered by law to be an adult, right? Well, I'm not talking about what the law says, because the law is put together by a lot of children that want to agree that they're adults, okay? But the reality of it is when you look at human behavior, you're looking at childish behavior. You're looking at adolescent behavior. You're looking at infantile behavior. Look at the current political situation that we're in right now. When I was a kid, when politicians were debating, they were arguing the issues. Now they just call each other names. Now they just accuse each other of being criminals. Now they just accuse each other of being liars, right? This is what it's come to, right? And then you look at the people who are being put up there to run for office, it's like, what the hell's going on here? It's like, I could do that better than this guy, right? Not only that, but now because of the fact that we have such adolescent and childish behavior among us, right? We have people that are a little unscrewed in leadership positions. People that we depend on to do the right thing for us, right, are subjecting us to war, are subjecting us to insanity, right? So all the more reason that you should wake up and start to be the author of your own existence, right? All the more reason. But that's not going to happen by itself. It's not just a luck, it's not going to be a good luck thing, right? This has got to be something that you take on and you start to practice every single day. Every day you should be exposing yourself to teaching. Every day you should be exposing yourself to practicing meditation. And each time you do, you're interrupting the brain continuing to run the same programming and deepen that programming.